Do you remember that time that Tony Stark turned into a woman? Well, I do. Let me tell you about it. So this one is a tad newer than our Batman story from last week, which in my opinion makes it even funnier. Because at least back then you were like, oh, that's when comics are crazy. But this one only happened in 2007 with the Mighty Avengers, which started shortly after Ms. Marvel was placed in charge of the Avengers. Monsters began to invade New York City, and the Avengers went to go fight against them. But shortly into the fight, Tony Stark's armor began to go all kinds of haywire, and then he exploded, showing his new form. A fully nude woman that looked oddly just like Janet Van Dyne. The reasoning behind this is that Ultron was in love with Janet, so to make matters more interesting, Tony Stark was not only turned into a woman, but he was also turned into a lesbian woman robot that was in love with the person that she was made from. The reason that she was able to take over Tony Stark is because he had interfaced Extremis with his own biology, and this allowed Ultron to just overwrite Tony's DNA. She then goes off to kill Sentry's wife, and then the Sentry begins tearing her apart, almost ripping her head off. And then eventually, a new Avenger called Ares uses a computer virus, which was made by a Skrull that was impersonating Hank Pym. Now that's a story for an entire different day called Secret Invasion, but the purpose was to overwrite the armor once again and allow Tony to turn back to normal. Tony then wakes up in a hospital bed with all of the Avengers making fun of him for turning into a woman, and then reassuring him that he still has his manhood. The closing lines on this story are the rest of the Avengers telling Tony that he was indeed a very pretty girl, and Janet informing him that he had boobies. There isn't much more to this, and if you want to read this one yourself, it's not that hard to come by. It's Mighty Avengers 1 through 6. This situation has also never been mentioned again by anybody, you know, the time that Tony turned into a killer female robot. Now just imagine them using this storyline in the next Iron Man movie. Robert Downey Jr. turning into a woman for half the movie. That would just be weird, wouldn't it? This whole series is basically a way for us to bring you bite-sized content about the weirdest stories in comic history. So I do hope you enjoy it, and check out these other great videos on the screen right now, you just might like them. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian, and I'll see you guys next time right here.